The problem with this divorce scenario for the guys is the system has already been built, and it's stacked against fathers, especially with those with children, because there is no government help for them. And so I've felt comfortable giving to the organization because they're not trying to build a shelter system to attract men. They're trying to fill a void that's not there for men. There's no government help for men. Men don't matter. Well, I'm a man, and I happen to think that men do matter.
I am Warren Sinkowski. This is Perspectives on Men, and I'm chatting here with Dennis Valenta. Dennis is a donor to the Canadian Centre for Men and Families from Ontario. Welcome, Dennis.
Welcome. Thank you, Warren. Yes, it's technology is an amazing thing. You're at one end of the country, and I'm at the other end of the country. It's pretty cool. So
it is. It is. So it's great to have you here on our podcast, and I just wanted to have a conversation with you today, ask you a few things about your life and your interest in men's issues and the programs that we're running. So hopefully we'll have a good discussion. Why don't we start with an introduction to you? Do you want to tell our audience a little bit about yourself, maybe where you grew up, and a little bit about your family experiences and how those have shaped you?
Well, I was born and raised in St. Jacobs. Actually, Kitchener, Ontario is where I was born. I was raised in St. Jacobs. I think I had a pretty normal upbringing. I think maybe not as spoiled as some, and maybe spoiled more than others. But I think maybe. Well, I got married. But when did I get married? I got married in 82. I got married. Boy, I can't even remember when I got married. No, it was 84. Sorry, I got married in 84. Marriage lasted for about 16 years, and it sort of went to pot after that. October 2nd, 2000, I came home to an empty house after fathering 4 children. And my oldest was 15, a girl, another girl of 13, she would have been 12, and then Jonathan was 11, my one son, and then my youngest daughter was 9. And unfortunately, I've learned a lot of things about the family law system that I wish I never would have learned. But I guess having said that, had I not learned these things, I probably never would have donated the amount of money that I have to the cafe, because, there's nothing like firsthand experience to find out how bad something or something, how good it is, right? But in this case, it was a bad education, or it was a good education in how bad the system is, put it that way. And I came home to an empty house, and so after about 2 weeks, I actually went to court. My reason for going to court was to have the judge order the police to find out where my ex had gone with my 4 children. And the judge come back with, well, Mr. Valenta, he says, I can't do that because your wife is not here to defend herself. And at that moment, I realized that the Ontario Court of Justice is not where I'm going to get justice. Because I thought that was such a stupid statement on the judge's part. It's like, well, if she was here, I wouldn't be here. I mean, the reason I'm here is I don't know where she is. I think I should have a right to know where my children are. But that's how the system works. And so it just went from bad to worse. We spent, my ex took me to court. Like that little request from the judge didn't convince me that I was going to get justice in the court system. So I said, well, I guess I'll just wait and see what happens then. And after a few months, my ex filed papers and took me to court. Of course, she wanted the child support. And so the child support started. I started getting the the child support deducted at source, as we all know it happens. But after they take your income tax at source and after they take the child support at source, you're only left with about probably somewhere in the neighborhood of a third of your gross income. And that's not enough to pay the mortgage and sustain yourself. I mean, any guy that's been through this knows. And so I that went on for a short while. I got to the point where I woke up one Sunday morning realizing that I had no money and I had no food in the house. So I didn't eat for 2 days. And that's when I realized that the way I was raised just does not work anymore, because I was raised that, we be responsible. We get a job, we work, we keep our, provide for our families and stuff. And this just does not work when you're involved in the family court system, because it's the child support was $1,700 a month on 4 children. I was only, and my mortgage payment was only around $1,200 a month. So I was far exceeding the money I had. I mean, we all know how that works. And so I at that point, when I didn't have any, I didn't eat for 2 days. Although I was working 70 hours a week, I made about 60 grand those years that I was back then. And I just realized that this is I can't continue like this, because I have to eat. And so a Monday morning, I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning, I jumped in the truck and drove down to Toronto here, delivered doors all day. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder how long you can go without food before you pass out. So I said, job or no job, Tuesday morning, I'm having breakfast on the company credit card. And that's what I did. I ate on the company credit card the rest of the week. And I told the owner of the company, I said, job or not, it doesn't matter to me, because if I lose my job, I still can't eat like I couldn't eat when I was working 70 hours a week. So what difference does it make, right? And so when I went to the doctor and decided that I'm going to get a stress note so I could get unemployment insurance. That's the only time I think I felt like I was sticking it to the system. And I had 17 weeks of unemployment. 16 weeks was all mine. And then the 17th week, somebody realized that, I was on unemployment, and the ex got half of the last, the 17th week. But in the time I was collecting unemployment, I started delivering pizzas. And when my unemployment ran out, I survived delivering pizza for 6 months. And then I made one of the best decisions of my financial career. I milked cows for 6 months. And you might be thinking that's kind of an odd place to have the best financial deal, but the people I milked cows for grew to trust me. And after I got back to my ex took me back to court then to get me to working again. And I had when we went back to court that time, a female judge, and she was probably did the best favor to me, despite the fact that not directly saying it was a favor. But she told me, she says, I don't think you're stressed at all. She said, I think you're doing this on purpose. And I had nothing to say, because I'm Christian. I believe in telling the truth. And if you can't tell the truth, just don't, I'm not going to argue with the judge about that point, because she was right. And so she imputed a wage of $31,000 on me, which was half of what I was making, because I told her, I said, I have no idea what kind of jobs are available. I'm not really in the mood to be working. So because she imputed such a low income on me, it allowed me to get a job. I started making 70 right off the bat, and it allowed me to get back on my feet from having the financial crisis of not working for a year. And but that enabled. So at that point, when I started working, I had basically I had a $20,000 RSP that was locked in until I'm 65. So I essentially was penniless. And in a matter of that was in 2004. In a matter of 16 years, I achieved more wealth than I was ever worth when I was married. And my ex-wife, when she left in 2000, she left with probably in the neighborhood of $200,000. And I know that um, she's probably out of money now. She doesn't know how to deal with money. She doesn't know how to manage money. And ultimately, as a Christian, I don't believe God can bless evil behavior like um, was the case. I mean, I believe what my ex did. Any woman who does what my ex did, I think, is evil behavior, denying children their father, the love of the father. Um, and then, so back to my children, if I may. Um, my son was 11 years old when um, my wife left, and he was a happy-go-lucky kid. But in 4 short years, he became an angry young man, and he became so angry at his mother because he knew it was his mother denying him his father. So he started physically assaulting his mother. Now, my ex, I guess, essentially can claim a victory in 2000 uh, in the court by winning the court case and getting custody of the children. But what did she win? She won domestic violence. My son started attacking her because he knew he didn't have a father because of his mother. So
Dennis, if you don't mind, can I ask you a question about an earlier part of your story? Around the year 2000, when you said you came home to an empty house and your wife had taken the 4 children, that must have been devastating for you. Did you have any support from your extended family or friends or neighbors during that time?
well, whenever you have hard times, you sure learn who your friends are. And my no, I lost. Hmm. Basically, I lost my entire family, my parents, my siblings, my children, um, and most of our friends. Because what I realized is that I mean, I had a so-called friend, a family that we used to hang around with all the time. He came into my house on Monday morning. When I left from work Monday morning, I returned Tuesday afternoon to an empty house. I came back, so he entered my home when I was gone to work, and I helped my ex-wife move all my stuff out of my house, take and move my basically facilitated her moving out along with various other people, and I suspect probably some of my own family, my own siblings did. Um, and he thought we could still be friends. And I said to him, I says, like, you got rocks in your head or something. I mean, you may as well have slept with my wife. I said, I have no desire. I can't trust you. I have no desire to be your friend. You ever want to apologize? Fine. As a Christian, I feel I would need to apologize or to forgive then. But until then, I got no desire to have you in my life. You can't be trusted. And it's just bizarre. People think they can do things like this. You destroy destroy a family, and then I think you can carry on like normal. No, I'm sorry, that's not how it works. That just doesn't work that way. So
Right. And during the family court process, that seems like it was very difficult for you as well. Did you what I would like to know is, what would you wish you had back then when you were going through the child support payment calculations and you were dealing with judges? What do you wish that you had by your side, maybe an aid or some information or guidance that you didn't have during that time?
well, I'm fairly confident had I had the knowledge that I'm learning now, which is about common law. Um, I'm fairly confident that what transpired would not have continued, but I didn't know. And so, and you can't be expected to, I mean, if you don't know something, you don't know something, right? But um, I'm learning about common law with, and what I've learned so far, I really, really believe that had I applied that to my case back in 2000, um, I would have ended up having the children, and my ex could have decided to, come or go, but I would have had my children. I'm confident of that. So, and I think that's actually a possible solution to, or more of an immediate solution to this. I've spent a number of years with the idea of being involved politically. I've ran 5 times as an or 4 times as an independent. I actually created a party in 2016 to run provincially, but um, as a way to, because you can't the problem with the existing political parties is, of course, they all have legal counsel, and legal counsel across the board, from what I understand, is that whether, regardless of whether they do family law or not, half their income comes from the divorce. So it's a huge, huge, huge money machine for the Law Society. And of course, those that are counseling political parties, they say, hey, you stay, that's our cash cow, you stay away from the divorce.
So we had a few technical difficulties, but we're back speaking with Dennis Valenta. So Dennis, thank you for sharing your story with us. I wanted to ask, after all this happened, how did you discover the Canadian Centre for Men and Families, and what was it that made you decide to donate to this organization?
So, excuse me. I got involved with FACT when I was actually going through the court divorce proceedings 20 years ago, and I think well, one of the directors, some of the guys, whatever, knew about Justin or about Cafe anyhow, and then I after a couple of years of being with FACT and moping around, and I ended up getting back to work, and there was a span of probably 15 years or so, 10, 12, 15 years. And then I guess, and I'm not sure, I'm not big on the computer stuff, but I got wind of the Momentum, which was, a year and a half ago, something like that. And I thought, well, I'm going to go to that. So I booked off that weekend, and I went to Momentum, and I met Justin, and I know how I've tried to expand or help. I tried to help FACT expand their presence, and I know how difficult it is to get media attention, that kind of thing, or at least have an idea how hard it is. And it just seemed to me that Cafe was had Justin's been successful in excuse me in putting together various fathers groups or activist groups, whatever, across the country. And it's something that I've never seen before outside of Cafe. So I thought, well, that's the kind of thing that we need happening. And it just seemed by this time, then a year and a half ago, I had gotten to the position where I'm actually have some cash I could donate. And one thing just led to another, and next thing you know, I'm cutting Justin our Cafe a check for an amount that was enabled them to seriously consider buying this home. And the problem, the one problem I have about buying, the concept of buying the home, is that that's saying that if you build it, they'll come. But the problem with this divorce scenario for the guys is the system has already been built, and it's stacked against fathers, especially with those with children, because there is no government help for them. And so I felt comfortable giving to the organization because they're not trying to build a shelter system to attract men. They're trying to fill a void that's not there for men. And that's a completely different scenario in my mind, because I mean, I've been hearing for years that a large percentage of the homeless population is obviously men, or not obviously, but it's men, and a large percentage of them come from divorced. They got broken because of the divorce and ended up on the street because there's no government help for men. Men don't matter, and well, I'm a man, and I happen to think that men do matter, and then of course fathers matter even more so than men to children, and one thing that's always bothered me about that term fatherhood is that I'm sure we've all heard the term a father figure. That's kind of a widespread concept, but I don't believe I've ever heard the concept of mother figure. So essentially what that's saying is that society believes that, or at least women, or the feminist believes that a man is replaceable or a father is replaceable. I don't believe that's the case. In fact, I know that's the case. Nobody can replace me as my children's father. And but how can, and we never hear the concept of a mother figure. So it's extremely slanted, and I just felt Justin was meeting a need that was already created. So we're not trying to build something to attract guys. The guys are already there. We're just trying to fill a void. So I think it's very important. I mean, there's virtually a women's shelter in every corner of major cities, and yet there's nothing for men. And so I'm quite proud of. Well, I'm quite pleased with the fact that I was able to donate, and now I guess we have our first family living in this shelter now. So it's quite a milestone, and I hope that getting the word out about this shelter, this house, the fact that I've been able to fork over some money to help the cause. I hope that'll encourage other guys, because you have to. I think anybody that has the financial ability or just have the cash on hand, it shouldn't be any surprise how dangerous the divorce can be for a man or a father. And is it worth to put money into something like this? Well, you have to ask yourself, what are my children worth? Are my children worth making a donation to an organization that's going to try and, because you could be in a situation where the father could maybe have gotten custody, but because he has no access to any shelter, you're not going to get custody to the father because we don't want kids living on the street. So, and that's somewhat understandable. But now that argument can't be made anymore, because Cafe has got a shelter for men and like fathers. So it covers quite a few bases on why I think it's important to give. I mean, there's I'm sure there's like Justin also told me that there's on a weekly basis, there's several families every week asking for help. So I'm sure that we could probably fill up several homes if we had the cash. And again, it's meeting the need. It's not trying to create the need. It's just filling the void that's there. And so I think it's very important. There's one thing you're never going to see behind a hearse, and that's a U-Haul. You can't take it with you, boys. And that's maybe when you like the general, I think that the general population is they build wealth and they leave their wealth to their children. But if you're divorced, like myself, and if you're estranged from your children, leaving your children, whatever amount of money you have to divvy up, is that really going to help your children if you haven't had a relationship with them for the last 20 years? Or would it possibly be better to help your children with a gift to an organization like this here, and you're leaving more of a like a legacy of fairness for your grandchildren, your future generations, because we're starting something here that is going to hopefully be the beginning of making the system a little more equitable between the mothers and fathers for the sake of the children. I know of a young lady who I told her right from the start that she was too nice to be working with the children's aid, but that's what she wanted to do, so that's what she's doing. But the number one, she was honest enough to tell me just a bit ago, the number one thing that children ask for when they're in children's aid care or whatever, divorce situation, whatever the circumstances are, the number one thing, without a doubt, they want both parents. And that's not rocket science. That's just, using your God-given noodle to come up with a little common sense and realize, that makes sense. Kids obviously would like to have both parents. They don't want to choose. They don't want to live with mom 6 months and dad 6 months. They want mom and dad, period. End of story. And if we had a court system that recognized that and honored that need, there'd be a lot less children in the healthcare system, and suicide watch, all these things that causes a child to be in distress. And then, of course, the fathers too. I mean, I think to some degree I've probably suffered PTSD, from the damn divorce. I have 4 adult children, 3 girls that don't speak to me. My son was killed 10 years ago. And so I really have nobody, despite the fact that I fathered 4 kids, and I got grandkids I've never met. And so who am I leaving my money to? Or would it be better just to leave a legacy that's going to hopefully someday usher in some justice for our future children? So.
Yes. Well, we thank you very much for your generous donation, and I'm confident that it's going to help a lot of families now and in the future.
Well, I think so. I mean, it's. I'm not an expert in building a shelter system for men, but it's a little bit like the monkey see, monkey do. It's everybody. It sounds like a good idea, but nobody wants to make the first step to get something going. But Justin's been fairly successful by all appearances, and getting this going, and just needed a little bit of financial help. And if we had more financial help, we could get a few shelters going, and it's like a snowball going down the hill. As it goes, it gets bigger and bigger. And again, it's filling the void. It's not creating the problem, or it's not creating the problem. Yeah, it's filling the void, which is an important distinction, I believe. So.
Yes, and it's unfortunate that federal, provincial, municipal governments don't recognize the need that men have. As you say, there are many services available of many different kinds for women all over the place. And it's definitely not our intention to subtract anything from that. We simply want to add the corresponding services for men so that they can access them when they need to.
Well, the Charter of Rights guarantees the equal application of the law. Well, it's about bloody time we start seeing that in the divorce process. And if we, if most guys my age will know who Ted Nugent is, and him and his wife, they split up, and they got the lawyers fighting with each other. And then I guess, I don't know what happened. They fell down, hit their head, and got some sense knocked into them. But they said, you know what? Neither one of us deserves to have custody of these children. We're going to give the house to the children. Essentially, the children got custody of the home, and the parents lived out of a suitcase for the next, 18 years or whatever, until the kids were adults and moved on. Then the house could be sold and divvy up the assets, right? But, a little child is so proud of their bedroom, their space, their neighborhood, their church, their school, their friends. Why do we allow a bunch of vindictive parents to disrupt that, and which causes the child all kinds of. If the child's already lost mom or dad or a certain connection with either one of them, and we're going to take away the familiarity of their bedroom, their friends, their community. On top of that, like, I mean, talk about destroying a child. And so why don't we look at it from the child's perspective? They're proud of the bedroom. Let's make a system where we can, as a starting point, this would just be a starting point. We say children get custody of the residence. It doesn't matter what residence you had when you were split, but that's the residence the kid gets for until they're 18, period. And the parents will have to equally spend 50-50 time and money in that apartment or house or whatever it is. Now, a lot will say, well, that's not doable with as a cost measure, because most people wouldn't have that kind of cash to maintain 3 residents. But the reason or the purpose for starting off that way is if you're going to have you're going to race, you have to start from the same position. And right now there is no bargaining chip for the father because he's a father. The mother has all the chips. Why the hell would she bargain away some of her chips? If you give both of them the same number of chips when you start your poker hand, you can have some semblance of the idea. Maybe you're going to come out at least even. And so I think that's an important thing that should be just mandated, and that is especially so for those that can't get along or refuse to get along. And in fact, I think one step further would be in order take the person that refused to deal with that scenario of the children having custody of the home, say, well, on your scheduled week with the kids, you're going to spend a week in prison to think about why you can't get along for the sake of the children. And I'm not saying you have to stay married, but you damn well have to leave the kids out of the fight. And the Law Society would be forbidden from ever imagining or using children to emotions to create the fight, because that's exactly what's happening now, and it's disgusting.
Right. I just wanted to ask you a question. Going back to your donation, after you made it, what kind of reaction did you get from any of your friends or family or people in your neighborhood? I imagine that you've told some people about it. What was their reaction to that?
I'm somewhat torn with the idea of spreading the word that I've given what I've given. The lady that sold the building that produced the cash that allowed me to give us the amount, I think was somewhat shocked. But I don't have contact with my own family, my siblings, my parents, that they don't know. Really, the only people that know about this is the people that Cafe have told. I don't spread it around. I don't walk around saying, "Hey, I gave X number of dollars to Cafe," because I just don't like the idea of doing that. And the only reason I agreed to do a video and sort of make my name somewhat public about attached to the size of the donation is because I do understand, of course, that it's monkey see, monkey do. Somebody gives X number of dollars, you put a face to it, and it sort of makes it puts a human touch on it, and I think that can be more beneficial in drawing more of the same. So, I mean, I hope that's the case. I mean, I know there's guys out there that are worth millions, and the ironic thing is, I've back when I was broke, I approached various guys who I knew were well off, and you could tell you just know how a guy conducts himself, how he lives, what kind of toys he has, that he's got a good amount of cash sitting around, and either that or a really friendly banker. But and all of them would say, well, when I asked them for a donation, they would say, "Oh no, I'm good." Well, they're not so much good. I know several guys right off the top of my head at home that They said, "Oh yeah, we're good," and refused to give me any cash for the cause. And the one guy lost his marbles because of a breakup. He's a nervous breakdown. You would absolutely never recognize him as the same man. He used to be clean cut, professional, traveled the world with his business, and he walks around town now. He's got hair down to his ass and a beard damn near his far. Doesn't take care of himself, hygiene wise, whatever. And you would absolutely just not recognize him as the same man. And he 20 years ago he said, "No, I'm good. I don't need to give any money to this. It's not a problem," but it is a problem. It's always kind of right there. And if you don't toe the line, you don't. Uh, and people have fights all. Marriages are going to be disputes, aggravations, whatever. But the problem is with the system. The system not only allows but encourages the use of children to create a bigger fight because. Anybody who's been divorced, they know that the first thing you do when you go to see a divorce lawyer is you fill out a financial statement. And well, then the lawyer knows how big the fight is. I mean, it's not rocket science. You got a $10 million pile of cash. The lawyer says, "Man, this is going to be a hell of a fight." And next thing you know, the money is all transferred, and for what? And you have destroyed children. Children won't talk to one parent or won't talk to both. Parents of divorce where the father doesn't have any chips per se. He doesn't parent well because he feels he has to bribe his kids to come and spend time with them, and it just creates bad parenting on both sides. And if I let you stay up till midnight, you'll come and live with me, and that kind of thing. Or so we really have to change, but in the meantime, we need to help a few guys out because apparently there's lots out there that need help.
There are, and I hope that your donation inspires other people to consider donating. What would be your message to anybody, men or women, who's considering making a donation, or the skeptics? What would you tell the people who doubt the utility of this and they say, "Oh, men don't really need help because they have the power and the privilege and those sorts of things"? What would you tell them?
What what amazes me is that the concept that men aren't supposed to have emotions. They're not supposed to get upset. They're not supposed to be. Why is that? What's so special about women that only women can be emotional? Why is that? I don't understand that. I'm not supposed to be emotional about my kids, about my grandkids. How is that? How is that a problem? Being a man and being emotional about my kids. I love my kids, and yet I don't have my kids because they've been poisoned. They've been poisoned against me. So I don't know. Put a dollar value in that. I don't know. My kids are priceless, and so it doesn't matter what amount of money I have given to Cafe or what amount of money anybody else gives to Cafe. What's your kids worth? What's the relationship with your kids worth? What happens at the drop of a hat when all of a sudden you lose that relationship? People they buy a car. What the first thing to do is they go out and buy insurance for that car. They buy a house. The first thing to do is go out and buy insurance for that house. They insure all its contents. They insure everything they have. The boat, the motorcycle, everything's got insurance on them. You don't put insurance on your kids, and you sure as hell don't have insurance on the relationship that you have with your kids. Well, maybe you better bloody well do it because right now there's nothing to prevent you from losing your the relationship with your children. And since the divorce is about 50%, 50% of marriages, I understand, end in divorce. So that's a fairly high threshold for damages. When you ask anybody have a brain, they talk to their insurance, and the insurance will say that, well, there's probably about a 5% chance that they're going to have a payout. And yet we spend all kinds of cash on insurance for our things and a big fat zero for our children. People got to give their head a shake because there's something seriously wrong with that concept. I'm sorry, but my kids are worth far more than any damn toy I have, a bike or a motorbike or, a motorboat, cottage, whatever. All of it's insured, and the risk level is around 5%. What the hell's the matter with you? Get some money and invest in something that's going to potentially save you from losing your relationship, which should be the utmost in anybody's mind.
Right. Yes, it's nobody goes into a relationship expecting it to end, but
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Many of them do, and that's a reality we all have to be prepared for. And it's unfortunate that the family court system and the legal system in general, it makes the process of separation costly, painful, and longer than I think it needs to be.
That's because the first thing when you go to see a divorce lawyer is you fill out a financial statement. If there's no money, there's no damn fight. The size of the fight is determined upon the size of the pot of gold. And there's just a little story here. There's the little rendition that we teach kids: "Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me." The complete opposite is actually true, because a kid will have a broken bone in 6 weeks or a month or 2 months, whatever. It's healed up and the kid's back playing, forgetting the fact that they ever had a broken bone. But you scar a child or anybody, an adult, child, whatever, emotionally, that could potentially last a lifetime. That's what PTSD is all about. Huh? You get scarred emotionally. And, so if don't take this the wrong way, but in third world countries, they have sweatshops where children go to work, okay? And we have do-gooders in this country that say, "Oh, you can't do that. It's child abuse and blah, blah, blah." Well, let's look at what's going on there for a second, okay? Let's assume for a minute the child that works in that sweatshop woke up with mom and dad that love them. They have breakfast. They go off to work in a sweatshop. They come home to mom and dad that love them. They have supper with mom and dad that love them. And then the kid goes to bed because they're tired from working all day, and they do this whole cycle again tomorrow. Now, we got do-gooders say, "Oh, that's terrible, blah, 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 it's child abuse," all that stuff. Those same do-gooders in this country say we have laws that say you can't make a child work and blah, blah, blah. But there is no laws preventing the so-called legal profession from using a child's emotions to create a fight. And so we're back to the sticks and stones things. The damage done by emotions is far, far greater than the damage ever done from a broken bone or a sweatshop. Now, I'm not advocating for a sweatshop forced labor of children by any means. I'm just saying the child, we've accomplished several things there. The child knows it has a mom and dad who love them. They've learned a work ethic, and they stay out of trouble at night because they're tired to be going out on the streets. In this country, kids are prevented from working. Kids aren't prevented from being used in the emotional battle in divorce court. And then those children, because they've lost their relationship with their father, typically the disciplinaire, they go to the street to find a father, and then the street creates a father for them, and that's typically the form of a gang. And then we have they say that 80% of juvenile delinquents come from fatherless homes. All of a sudden, we've created another industry that all the juvenile delinquents walking around, 80% of them wouldn't be there if they all had a father. And then those juvenile delinquents, they grow up to be hardened criminals, and there goes the justice system. You look at all the jails around with all these men in there, and you're going to find a lot of those men are going to come from a fatherless home. And then you talk about human trafficking. I know a woman who she can't stand me because of my public view on dislike of the divorce laws and stuff, and she works at the women's shelter. Her job is to teach women how to beat up men in court and break up the family. And yet she's talking about human trafficking. She says, well, human trafficking can be attributed to a lack of parental involvement. So I went and talked to her when she's also a bartender at this small private club, and she says, "I said, did you actually say that?" Yeah, and I said, "Well, did you ever think that maybe on the one hand you're helping to destroy the family, on the other hand you're blaming the lack of the parental involvement because it just happens that fathers are parents too, and now you've got a big win for women over on this side, but over here you're victimizing children again. They not only lost their family, now they're being victimized by human traffickers. Like, gee, if they had more parental involvement based on her assessment of the matter, a lot of these kids wouldn't be involved in human trafficking because the human traffickers, when they're looking for children, I understand, and it makes sense. They look for that child that's walking the streets, kind of forlorn and disgruntled with life and that kind of thing. That's the kind of the human trafficker goes for, because it's obvious the kid has got emotional problems from in their life.
Yes, and one thing we know, I think a lot of social science research has shown that even after a separation, children that are raised with contact with both parents and they have a relationship with both parents, they do better in so many ways than children that only have the contact with one parent. They do
Absolutely, because
they drop out of school less. They end up with better jobs, better relationships, less criminality. And if you look at the prison population and you look at violent offenders or people who use guns to kill people, like there's a huge percentage of them grew up in single family households. And the system we have, it seems to be designed to replace the income, so the financial support of the other parent, but you can't replace the fathering role. You can't replace, the other parent's guidance and teaching and discipline and all those things.
You can't do it because I am not replaceable, and I don't believe any mother is either. But don't talk to me about father figure. I so despise that phrase, father figure.
Mm-hmm.
My ass, I'm not replaceable. Sorry, lady. Are you replaceable? You want me to come and replace you?
Right.
It's disgusting.
Well, this has been a very interesting conversation, Dennis, and I'm glad I had a chance to talk with you. Before we go, is there any final thing that you wanted to say?
Some days I wish I had more cash to give, because there's obviously a short supply of guys willing to do this. But I think maybe the best sales pitch I can make for the idea of giving is back to the insurance concept. We insure all of our things. When the hell are we going to wake up and insure? Because you couldn't find an insurance company to insure you for the breakup of the family, because it's such a high risk. The insurance company would go broke in a heartbeat if they were insuring marriages, because 50% of them go in default. If there was a 50% chance of your house burning down, good luck finding insurance to cover that one. Insurance companies, it would cost you so much, it wouldn't be worth having, because you could pay for the house yourself, with the premium it would cost. So, people, you guys, you got to think about this. Think of it. It's not what it is, but think of it along the same lines of insuring your goods. Insure your relationship with your kids, because that's the most important thing you'll ever have in this life. When you're old and gray, who the hell is going to look after you? If you don't have a relationship with your kids, you're on your own. And that's the one thing that kind of, is it somewhat bothers me. It's like I got nobody. My kids reject me, and nobody take care of the old man anymore. And so I think that's what I would say. Look in the mirror, guys. Say, you know what? How much money do I spend insuring all my stuff? Surely the same amount would be justified in insuring the relationship with my children. So whatever that amount is, I don't care if it's $1,000. I don't care if it's $500,000. If you're willing to spend that on insuring your stuff, sure as hell your relationship with your kids should be worth as much, or grandkids. So anyhow.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope that our conversation has been instructive to our audience and it inspires some of them to donate to our organization. And I look forward to speaking with you again sometime in the future, Dennis.
All righty, Warren. Well, thank you, and hopefully you can make some sense of this when you're with your editing and stuff. And anyhow,
okay.
So
thanks. All right. Well, have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.